I just wrote corn. Hello babies and welcome back to my channel. I'm David, you're David, we're all David, and welcome to Dismantling Hate, this series where we look at some hateful online rhetoric, and today is no exception. Do not adjust your television sets. There has been a production change. Hopefully it's a little bit more clear. So thank you so much for supporting me. I'm able to put more time and money into my production of my content because of people who are liking, commenting, subscribing to my channel, doing all the things. So thank you so much for the support that you've given me so far. I really do appreciate it. I do see it. I love it. I'm so thankful. Thanks for being here. Okay, back to business. So, dismantling hate. Before we get started here, please do not go send any hateful messages to any of the people that I feature in any of my videos, but specifically this creator. Because this video, this is an insane video. This is just, you're not ready, but that's okay, because we're gonna do it together. We're gonna be talking a lot about corn today.
I just wrote corn.
And we're not going to be mentioning the P word, so I do not get demonetized. Lots of corn. It's corn, stupid. Anyway, so we're not gonna waste any time here. We're gonna get right down to brass tacks. Now, we are going to be looking at an Instagram account called Renewed Marriage. One of the reels came across my For You page the other night, and I was like, this can't be real. The algorithm is feeding me straight solid gold here, so I'm here to share this cringe with all of you here. Now, Canyon and Sierra, it says, helping you quit corn for good. Fix the damage it has caused within your marriage. Our marriage has been free for 3 years. Get started here. And then there's a link, so let's go ahead and see what's on this link. Imagine you and your spouse feeling closer than ever, working together to raise your children well, fully trusting each other, enjoying precious moments together without getting into an argument over corn. We're Canyon and Sierra Cook, and we're here to help you achieve exactly that. After Canyon tried to quit corn and failed, we decided something had to change. We started as a quest to learn more about what we could do as Christians. Kylie prepped the Christianity kit. To work through our issues has turned into a system that has helped hundreds of couples quit corn for good, move forward, rebuild trust, and confidently show up in their lives and marriage like never before. And then there's a start here button. Should we click it? Should we bite? Let's bite. Yeah. Just for $9 a day, you too can quit corn for good.
Hi, I'm Sarah McLaughlin.
Picture this, you and your spouse having a blah da 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 da. Okay, 39, it gets worse. Okay, no, that's not what we're here for. But there is a short video, let's see what's happening here.
Hi, and welcome to the Renewed Marriage website. I'm Canyon Cook.
And I'm Sierra Cook, and we're very thankful that you are here, because we know that if you are here, it's most likely that you are struggling with a pornography issue within your marriage. And so that's exactly what this website is going to help you work through to get to the point where your husband can quit pornography for good, not ever go back to it, and for you to feel confident in your ability to leave it in the past, to move forward, to work towards healing and renewing your marriage. And so we have several different resources here on this website to help you do exactly that. And if you do have any questions, please email us at info@renewed-marriage.com, and we look forward to connecting with you soon.
Okay. There's a whole mother-loving podcast attached to this as well. We're not going to take a look at the podcast for this video. We're just going to peruse through the Instagram here. But before we do, there's a bigger kind of conversation to have here when it comes to, I just wrote corn. Okay, so before we really dive on into their Instagram profile, there's a little bit of groundwork that we need to lay here when it comes to corn in general. So we're going to have a look at an article published by Psychology Today called Corn. Corn is any sexually explicit material, written, visual, or otherwise intended to sexually arouse. Corn has existed for millennia, and today it remains widely available in books, magazines, and audio recordings. But it's most readily found and accessed online. The world's largest corn site claims that in 2018, it had a daily average of 92 million unique users, the vast majority of them males. On a daily basis, 92 million? That's a lot of corn viewing. How does the ubiquity of corn affect individuals and their relationships? Is it a harmless pastime or potential addiction? Is it a way to add some spice or will it destroy your relationship? The debate of whether corn is detrimental to sexual development and mental health continues to rage as psychologists and others evaluate the validity of corn addiction, a supposed disorder that has no universally accepted diagnosis criteria and is not included under the DSM-5. So now that we've talked about what corn is, we're going to talk about the psychological effects and maybe even a little bit of the neuroscience and why there's so much stigma that is attached to corn consumption. It is, like anything else in our world, can become problematic for a multitude of reasons, which we are quickly going to walk through here. We need to answer the age-old question, is it bad? Let me know in the comments what you think, because I think this is a very divisive conversation and a lot of people really think it's really bad and a lot of people don't care and a lot of people think it's really good. All of these points are very important to include in this conversation about corn before we get into this Instagram profile, because we're going to get all of our batters set up here before batters. God, the amount of jokes that have come up in this filming, and you don't even know because I've edited most of them out because all of them were filthy. We need to line up our batters here and get them ready to just knock everyone of these reels out before we get into this Instagram profile. Is corn bad? A 2018 study suggests that around 85% of 1,036 participants reported using internet corn during the previous 6 months. There were 80% men and 26% of women reported consuming online corn at least once a week. I wasn't really aware that there was such a big discrepancy between male and female corn use. I mean, it does make sense because when you think about like kind of the stereotyped corn, it's very men-centered and it's made for men. It's made through the male gaze. But experts cannot agree whether corn can be an addiction or how common it might be. For every study purporting to show a benefit of corn, there is another study disputing that benefit. Many studies rely on self-reports or untested assumptions. And I think that's a really big part of this as well, is that it has to come down to you personally. I hate to quote Dr. Phil because he's problematic for a multitude of ways, but Dr. Phil defines something as normal if it does not affect the daily living of your life. So if you are somebody that engages in watching corn and it doesn't affect your life in any negative ways and doesn't affect the regular functioning of you as a human being, then that something is natural. But there are a lot of pitfalls when it comes to corn that we're going to get to in a moment here. Some potential psychological benefits include increased access to diverse sexual material, destigmatizing sex, sexual empowerment, stress relief, and leisure. I think there is a lens of this where people are thinking like corn is so bad because then our kids get a hold of it and this and that. But if you're a parent, it is your responsibility to monitor the online presence of anybody that is in your care under the age of 18. There are child locks or parental controls on pretty much any device that you can buy out here in the technological landscape. So it is ultimately your responsibility to make sure that you're monitoring the online presence of the people that are under your care, that are under the age of 18, not only just for corn, but there is so much other nefarious nonsense going on online. So this has nothing to do with kids. We are solely talking about consenting adults that are consuming corn in an ethical way. Just wanted to put that out there for you nutheads in the comments. Now let's get into the potential risks and side effects when it comes to the psychological effects of consuming corn on a regular basis. Some potential effects may include body image and the beauty myth. So this is a really big one, right? You look at all of these corn actors and actresses and they have, you know, the beautiful, perfect body, standard body. I put perfect in air quotes because there is no such thing as a perfect human form, or rather everybody is the perfect human form. If we're watching these like Greek gods that look like statues and like ice sculptures out here in corn videos, it's not an accurate representation of, you know, the everyman or the every woman. So there is part of it that contributes to a negative body image, and that makes sense. Addiction. So like anything else in your life, you can become addicted to corn. And if, again, like Dr. Phil says, open the door. No, that's not what I'm saying. If it stands in the way of your regular functioning as a human being, it might be something that is worth looking into, and it might be something that is an addiction. So that I can absolutely understand. And then, of course, we have the health benefits. Generally speaking, research on corn and health outcomes is either poorly designed or produces inconclusive results. So a lot of this evidence is highly anecdotal and experiential from people who have gone through these things. But so much, even when it comes to addiction, right? If we think of nicotine and cigarettes, some people have no problem at all just giving up cigarettes cold turkey and they don't even think about it. Some people struggle with a nicotine addiction for decades. Hi, it's me. I'm the one who struggles with a nicotine addiction. It's okay. I have a vape now. I'm vaping. I'm aging backwards like Benjamin Button. I'm now a teenager. Anyway, not the point. However, research does show that positive sexuality can increase health in many ways, including lowering blood pressure and improving the immune system. According to the Center of Women's Health, corn can be a part of a healthy sex life. But like many other things in the human experience, it is highly individualized. So if it is something that is assisting you, I think that's fine. And if it's something that is not assisting you, I think that's also fine for you to not engage in that if it's not being helpful for you. Next up, it talks about sexual desensitization. So some analysts argue that chronic or intense corn use may make a person less responsive to a sexual partner, which would make complete sense. You know, the more you eat McDonald's, the less satisfying McDonald's is, right? I haven't had nuggies in a couple of weeks, so those nuggies would be so good right now. But if I had nuggies 3 nights in a row, like, oh God, it's all very that. It's giving very that. So a really important part of this conversation is the way that corn is integrated into our society. So many advocates argue that the personal effects of corn may extend to society as a whole, and some of these drawbacks include increased misogyny. We can absolutely see how that's a thing because women can be treated like a resource, and that is gross. We've talked about that on this channel many times, especially when it comes to alpha males and the way that they view women as a resource, which is highly misogynistic. The list goes on here. We've talked about these things. So as we found here in our just brief Google search of the psychological effects of corn, you can see that corn use could be good for some people. It might be helpful, and corn use could be bad and negative for some people. When it comes to religion, Kylie prep the Jesus kid. Exactly. When it comes to religion, there's a huge part of shame associated around this and that. And I think shame is a tactic that is used as a behavior control. And I think that's manipulative, and that is not right when it's done on any scale, but especially a large global monetized scale, like a lot of religions tend to do, especially Christianity. Yeah, so there are some good things. There are some bad things. You have to take it with a grain of salt. You have to figure out what is right for you and your life and your relationships. And that is effectively what Canyon and Sierra are doing here. This is really interesting though, because I think their experience can be valid. I think there's a world where this experience is valid. However, it's really interesting when it comes to this idea of content creation, because you are putting your life story, your content out here for all of these people to see. And it is in an effort to monetize this as well. So I think that's where the problem of ethics comes in here, because you're kind of manipulating people into potentially feeling shame about their corn use. Is there a potential for it to be an addiction and for it to be a negative thing in your life? Absolutely. And then you should seek actual licensed people who can help you with that. So if that is something that you're struggling with, I urge you to not feel shame about it, because people can become addicted to quite literally anything. Have you seen the capitalist hellscape we're living in right now? You could be addicted to anything. I'm addicted to those little trail mixes in my closet that I keep going for every 18 minutes. That's kind of a joke, but that's not really a joke. I have dealt with a food addiction for a long time in my life, but you can be addicted to anything. And a corn addiction, while it might have different effects from a food addiction or a nicotine addiction or an opioid addiction, it does still fill the pleasure centers and flood your brain with dopamine in the same way, or at least similar ways as a lot of these other addictions do. So there's not some dark, deep, like gross morality problems with you if this is something that you struggle with. It's just what had to happen was, you know, like, it's just, don't feel shame. Shame gets you nowhere. So stop feeling shame. Even if you're not addicted to corn, don't feel shame. Okay. We are going to start with the video that I first saw. So imagine it's 1 a.m. I'm scrolling Instagram reels in my bed because I should be sleeping, but I have time defiance. And I came across this video. So it says, what is one thing that seems like everyone believes about watching corn, but is actually a myth? That watching it is harmless. We're going to attack this together here now, because we already know the research. We know we went through psychology today. We did our due diligence in the Google. So now we're going to read this. It's not harmless. And here's how your marriage can break free from it. If you need the scientific evidence of how watching corn harms the viewer and those around them, start by looking up info about what it does to physically alter the brain. Then look for the statistics of divorce and how corn contributed to it. It's a little bit of a false dichotomy there, right? The altering of the brain may be true, but the divorce rate when it comes to corn, it's not really the same thing, because there are so many other extenuating circumstances that would contribute to somebody getting a divorce other than just the use of corn. My husband and I started his journey of quitting corn for good 4 years ago, and our marriage has been free from corn. It's hard to keep this together. And our marriage has been free from corn and the negative effects it has had on us, the negative effects it has had on them, not necessarily on the entire population, but on them. And their experience is valid, but the projection of their experience on the rest of the world is not valid. We're here to share our experience and knowledge we've learned along the way. We've created a course to help you and your husband through this process. He can quit corn for good, and your marriage can be better than ever when you know exactly what to do to make it that way. It's tough because if we look here at their main page, they have 216 followers. And hey, I'm not here to follower shame. I think I have I have like 850 Instagram followers right now. It's not a follower shamey moment. Oh, but what a great plug for me to say, go follow me on Instagram, David.they, or on TikTok at David_they. Ding. Like, it's not the follower shame because everybody starts from somewhere. I had 216 followers. I don't know why I keep showing this to you as if it's not right here on the screen as well. I at one point had 216 Instagram followers as well, so there's no shame in that. But if you've been slinging your anti-corn marriage saver helper course, but I think the algorithm might be talking to you if you have had so many thousands and thousands of eyes on your reels and only 216 followers, that conversion rate is so incredibly low. And you need to listen to those analytics if you are attempting to monetize your social media, because I believe that's what they're doing here. That's what they're doing here. It's engagement bait. God, it's funny. I start talking about corn and now I'm a teenager with a filthy mind. Okay. It's just wild and asinine to me. And this may be helpful for somebody. And I don't want to yuck somebody's yum. God, even that sounds filthy in this context. If it's helpful to you and you did this course and you want to do this course, and I think that's fine. I think that's fine. But you need to be able to critically look at this and understand who these people are and what they are attempting to do. They're not just like the Christian saviors who are out here trying to like make the world a better place. They are trying to make money. They are trying to make money, and they're trying to, and in my opinion, they are attempting to manipulate people into thinking that watching corn is something bad and it is something that will ruin your marriage. Does it have the potential to? Could it be a gateway drug into something else? Sure. Does it have to be? No. Here's an important one. We are not licensed counselors. We are Christian mentors who have been through this experience ourselves, received counseling, gone through support groups, spend countless hours researching the effects of corn addiction, and have training in corn/sex addiction led by a licensed psychiatrist. And we are confident in our ability to mentor you and help you through this. Like, that's great. That's great. Good for you. I'm glad you received all of that support. However, you receiving all that support does not mean that you are now qualified to then give that support to other folks, because your experience is your experience. Just because somebody else is struggling with an addiction to corn doesn't mean that their experiences are going to easily transpose to yours. Like, you may be inadvertently hurting people with your advice here. And I would argue that's what's happening here for the most part, because if somebody is reading this in earnest, if somebody has a partner who is watching corn and they don't want them to be, or that's like a big betrayal, then they might be hurt by this. You in fact might be hurting marriages in this context more than a corn viewer might be. But if you have a corn addiction, you should receive the help of a licensed psychiatrist, therapist, anybody else who has a license, except whoever these people are on Instagram with 216 followers. Anyway, we are Christians and everything we teach is based off the what? Am I forgetting how to read, or is this poorly written? We are Christians and everything we teach is based off the what the Bible says. We never give advice that doesn't align. We never give advice that doesn't align with God's truth / his word. Again, it's manipulative for people who have religious affiliations, and that's what's unethical, and that's what's gross, and that is what I'm roasting, and that is what we are dismantling on this channel, because, dismantling hate, the premise of the show. Let's get a few more reels here. Let's get a few more reels here. Okay, so this one says, why is no one talking about how watching corn is a sin?
It seems like no one is talking about pornography and how it is sinful and how it harms a marriage, but that is why we're here. We are here to talk about that. We're here to be open about that, regardless of what the world wants to say about it and about how, it's not wrong and all of those things. We're here to talk to you. If you are struggling with this in your marriage and you want it gone, you want this out of your marriage, you don't want to have to deal with this anymore, and you want to move forward. And so that's one reason why we have this page. We're here to talk about that. And do you want to go ahead and start?
One of the things that I think about is, Jesus and John the Baptist and the apostles, and really all the earlier church, they were not afraid to call out sin whenever they saw it. And what we see is that there is no one really talking about this, which is what we've said, and we're calling it out.
You know what? I can't even take any more of this. Watching porn is not a sin. Sin is something that is constructed. The idea of sin is something that is constructed along with the idea of morality and laws and all of these things. And ultimately, if you're relating this all back to the magical man in the sky who is going to either grant you eternal life in the kingdom of heaven or banish you to an eternity in the flames of hell, like that's a fairy tale. I'm sorry, it's a fairy tale, and I don't subscribe to that. I think that's fine that you do, but it's not this. Here's something that I want to say about this, specifically with this idea of porn as cheating, because I think if you get into a relationship and you and your partner sit down and you say, hey, we're both going to agree that we are not going to watch porn. And that is something that we are going to deem as cheating, because I think what is cheating definitely comes down to what you and your partner have to set out for a standard of the ways in which you are going to behave in a relationship. You cannot be in a relationship with somebody that you haven't discussed the very real and like intricate details of what you believe cheating is, because some people view that as a kiss, some people view that as like an emotional relationship, some people view it as just texting, some people view it as watching porn. Like it's all the details are very small and the details are very fine. So you need to have the communication skills in order to set those boundaries with your partner in order to have a healthy relationship. However, when you are in a relationship, your partner does not own your sexuality. And I'm going to say that again. When you are in a relationship, your partner does not own your sexuality, because your experience as a sexual being, if you are one, is an experience that can include your partner. And I'm not talking about having multiple partners if monogamy is your bag. I think that's cool. You do whatever you want. Your relationship to yourself is something that should be paramount. And if that involves the use of porn, or if that involves the use of any kind of sexual aid or anything like that, I think it's very harmful to create an environment where it feels like your partner owns your sexuality, because your partner does not own you. Your partner does not own any part of you, and your individualized experience within the world comes before your experience with your partner. That's what I believe, really deep down in my soul. You need to be cool on your own before you're cool with the partner. One of the interesting comments here too is somebody says, oh, he's just better at hiding now, which may be the case, but maybe it's not. I don't know. Maybe this man, what's his name again? Canyon. What an interesting name also, by the way. Naming your son Canyon. That's really interesting. Maybe they're pseudonyms for whatever this is. I don't know. I don't think we need to go much farther into this profile. I think we got the gist, but I saw this and I was really interested to talk about the psychological effects of porn, because I think it is something that is highly stigmatized in our world, especially when it comes to religious nuts like this. And I'm not saying religious nuts as in like everybody who believes in Sky Daddy and Jeebus and the Flying Spaghetti Monster is a religious nut. I wouldn't call you a nut, but if you do think that there is some kind of omnipotent, all-seeing, all-knowing creator that made everything, it's just not something that I personally believe in, and that's okay, in the same way that you believing something is also okay. But if your beliefs start to infringe on the way that other people behave in the world, if it doesn't negatively affect anyone else, I think that's a problem. And then if you are manipulating people into feel shame in order to align themselves with the views of your omnipotent almighty God that we don't have any proof of, specifically for the purpose of monetization, then that's gross. That's unethical. And I think that should be called out. And that's what we're doing here. It says, imagine being able to go places with your husband and not worry about who he's looking at. Ooh, that is problematic right there. Why can't your husband look at people? Why can't you look at people? What does looking at people mean? You can look at people. In my experience, that comes down to not feeling very confident in yourself and your physical body and that, because you should be able to look at people. I think that's really controlling. And I think a lot of this comes down to controlling her husband's experience. And like, but how can you even, I was going to say if they made the deal that he wasn't going to look at anybody else, but how is that even an effective way to move around the world? You're going to have to look at people. And how are you going to deem whether him looking at somebody is just because of happenstance or because there's some sexual nature behind it? It's so messy. It's impossible to decipher correctly. And you're just setting yourself up for disappointment and maybe divorce. Who's thinking of these? Like, I get it. And like, if you're going to be a content creator and you want to go out in the world and create content and do that, that's great. Hey, you're watching my YouTube video right now. I'm a content creator. I love it. It's great. It's an awesome creative space where you can express yourself. Love it. Boots the house down. I don't know if this is the way. I don't know if this is the way. I don't think this is going to be sustainable because because Christianity and faith-based anything is on the decline with our newer generations. So I don't think they're going to see sustainability and longevity in this, but that's just my opinion. So there's this video here that says, point of view, you get to spend quality time with your husband and kids, not worrying about if he's thinking of other women. I think you're over concerned that this man is going to be cheating. I think maybe that's what this is going to come down to, and that you don't have trust in your husband. And if you don't have trust in your relationships, how can you do that? You can rebuild trust, I believe, but if you don't have trust in your partner in a relationship, how is that going to work? It's just not going to work. And the exploitation of your story and your husband's story is one thing, but putting your child's face, that's why I'm not showing you this video, but fully, like, that husband is holding a baby and we see that whole baby's face. Not that babies are like recognizable because they're babies, like they got round chubby cheeks just like every other baby. All babies look the same. No, they don't. But ultimately, like, that's so weird. In 20 years, like, what if these reels still exist in 20 years and your kid comes across that? That is a mess. So babies, we're going to end it here. Thank you so much for watching this video with me. I know it was a little bit unbearable, but I hope my dazzling personality and entertaining commentary made it a little bit more of a pleasurable watch for you here on Corn, here in this video where we talked about corn, stupid. Anyway, so yeah, if you like the sound of my voice, consider subscribing to the channel. Leave a like if you like. Tell me what you think down there in the comment section. You know, if you're going to leave a hateful comment because I'm a feminine person with a beard and a deep voice, make it a good one so I can put it in my reading mean comments video, because if people are going to be hateful online, I'm going to what? Monetize it. But the difference between me and them is that I'm not trying to sell you something based off of the ideological fantasies of some mystical figure up in the sky, and we call him Daddy in this house. Sky Daddy. I don't know if that landed. I don't know if that translated. I'm getting a little bit delirious because I've been filming a long time. If you're interested in more from me, you can follow me on Instagram at david.they or at TikTok at david_they. I have a podcast called D-Talk that you can listen to on Spotify or watch on YouTube. I appreciate you so much for being here. I really do. So thank you for watching this video, and until the next one, goodbye. It's corn, stupid.